Awesome. And now to talk about our module of the week, let's bring in Martin Anderson-Klutz, Senior Solutions Engineer at Acquia and maintainer of a number of Drupal modules of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, John. This week, I thought we would talk about the Alexa module, which allows your Drupal site to respond to Alexa skill requests. Now, it's a module that was originally created in 2016, but last year in July of 2022, an 8.x-1.1 version was released to give it sort of Drupal 10 readiness. The module is officially listed as having maintenance fixes only, but it seems like the maintainers have done a pretty good job of proactively releasing or creating releases to make it work with major releases of Drupal as they have been coming out, so for 9 and 10. In terms of open issues, it only has 6 issues open, and only one of those is a bug, which actually has an RTBC patch against it. Module is currently in use by 31 sites, and the current maintainer appears to be Gambry, who also maintains a number of projects related to the chatbot API. So the way the module works is it really provides only basic integration, and the idea is that you would create sort of a custom module to sort of implement the specific functionality that you want to expose to that Alexa skill. There is an Alexa demo submodule that you can use as reference for sort of creating that custom submodule. I think it's also worth pointing out that this module was highlighted in the DrupalCon New Orleans Dries note, and also mentioned by Dries in a later blog post about cross-channel user experiences. Also, if you're interested in learning more about how you can use this Alexa module with your own site, there was a recorded session at DrupalCon Seattle about using the module to integrate Drupal with Alexa, and we'll have that link in the show notes. So maybe opening this up to the group, anyone have any thoughts about using Drupal with Alexa?
I have one thought right this second. I'm glad that I have headphones in because I have one of those devices here, and we've said the wake word about 6 times, so could be interesting. But
yeah, our listeners are not going to be happy with us. I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm glad it exists. Personally, I don't have any of those devices, any of those types of devices in my house other than my cell phone, which I have that functionality disabled. But I think I do think that it's helpful to have that ability to have integrations. I mean, and it's also novel enough that while I've never used it, as soon as you mentioned it, I remember the Dries note and the blog post about it. You know, I think it's also important to note that this isn't the kind of thing where you just install it and it just works, right? You also do need to make the skill in the platform on the Amazon platform. Like it's not just you install this and all of a sudden your site works with that tool. You know, there's additional work that needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that being said, the really cool part about this integration is that all of sort of the voice recognition and then text to speech side of things you inherit. You basically get that for free because Amazon does all of that. So it's really still, more of like almost like exposing an API, that type of integration. So I think it's a pretty interesting, path potentially for making your content or your site functionality available in different ways.
So that's an interesting point, right? So this is providing a connection between Drupal and, Alexa's skills service. Cancel. I was trying so hard not to say it. I failed.
Bingo. Is that what
there you go. Everybody can cross that off their sheet. So the question there, I guess, is to Nick's point, right? You still have to create that skill on the Amazon side. Is this just like formatting the API endpoints on the Drupal side to be able to communicate easier with the Amazon service?
So what I'm about to say, obviously, I'll use the major caveat that I haven't actually had the chance to implement with this myself. I have an idea of something that I think would be fun to expose as an Alexa skill. But it's my understanding that yes, you create almost like an API endpoint that will accept a request And then you provide sort of that, almost like the controller type logic to define how it's going to format that response. I believe you can also give it the ability. So if somebody asks for something, then you can ask almost like a clarifying question to collect additional data. And then once you have all of the data that you need, you formulate the response, you provide that in text form, and then the device will actually then read that out loud to the user.
I think one of the reasons why this is well maintained is the Georgia State Gov website, I think, uses this to help maintain their integration as well. I think mostly to help with a lot of like frequently asked questions type stuff and information dissemination, but I believe that this is how that's done, or one of the tools used for that.
Yeah, Martin, I'd like to congratulate you on tying this into this podcast once again, the module of the week. So it's about interacting with Drupal from outside of Drupal. And I would like to challenge any of our listeners to go out and create an Alexa skill that you can say, Alexa, play the latest Talking Drupal podcast. And then we can figure out how to stream that to our listeners.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
Feel like I could probably do that right now just by saying those words, but
yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if that would work.
Yeah, I don't know. It probably would. I think if you said, Alexa, play the latest Talking Drupal podcast on Spotify, it probably would work. Oh, sorry, that's me. Alexa, cancel. Sorry.
I know in my car I can use a Google Assistant to say, play Talking Drupal, and it'll spin up the latest episode on Spotify. So yeah, depending on your setup, there are definitely ways to do that, probably without a special skill. But I'm sure our listeners can come up with some interesting ideas on how this could be leveraged for sure.